Today we're going to teach you how to play chess. I'm sure you've seen chess somewhere in your life, and if you've never learned how to play, here's your chance. Today I'm going to show you how each piece moves, with those pieces, the names of them, and then also each piece has a value. That's how you kind of know if you're winning or losing and how you trade things. So real simple, we'll go over just the very basics of how to play chess. So in chess, you're going to have black pieces and white pieces. The goal of the game is to capture the king, meaning that he can't move anywhere. And we'll go into that in future videos. But just to start off, let's start with the very smallest piece called the pawn. You see the pawns here? You're going to have a total of 8 of them. Now the pawn is a unique piece because usually it only can move one square, kind of like this. Just kind of going across, slowly across the board. If it's on its very first move, a pawn can actually move 2 spaces instead of 1. Now, a pawn is unique when it comes to attacking another piece is because even though it moves in one square, it cannot move on top of a pawn or another piece. It actually can only take in a diagonal, like so. So if you have your pawn here, and you have another piece or a pawn, it can't take this one, but it can take this one right here. You have a lot of pawns, so you get used to them real quick. Now, let's continue on with the rook. Now, the rook is a unique piece because it can move in either ranks or files. So think that the rook honestly can't make any quick turns. It has to just go straight in one direction. So it's either going up and down or side to side, okay? So that's how the rook moves. It's real simple. Now let's go with the knight. The knight is very, very unique. With the knight, it's the only piece that can hop over other pieces. So with the knight, when it's in its starting position, it can actually hop over some of these pawns. Now, the direction it moves is very particular. I always like to think with a knight that it's moving in an L shape. So when you're looking at a knight, think about moving in always an L shape. Now you move 2 squares and then 1 to the right or 1 to the left. That's how the knight moves. So let's try that again. So if my knight's here, my knight's going to move 2 squares and then I have the option to move it once to the left or once to the right. So I can either move it here or I can move it here. Now with that, a knight is very powerful in jumping over pieces because it can get into places that it shouldn't be or the opponent doesn't want it to be. So again, just real quick, where a knight can move is 2 squares in one direction, not going diagonal. You can't like go diagonal and then 1 over. 2 squares in one direction, and then you get to choose to the left or to the right. Now the knight also takes as it moves, so it actually jumps over and takes that piece where it landed. So once again, it doesn't take anything in its way. It hops over anything until that final square, and the knight will take 1, 2, and then 1 over. Then let's move on to the bishop. Now the bishop is unique because the bishop moves in diagonals. And because it moves in diagonals, it means it will never move from its original colored square. You'll see that you actually start off with a black bishop and a white bishop for both sides of the board. Now, that's important later when you get into higher tech in the game, but to start off, a bishop moves in just straight diagonals. It can go as far as it wants, but it moves in diagonals. So it can move across the board. It's really good for attacking in long distances. It's almost kind of like your sniper. You can think of it as your bishop. Then after the bishop, let's look at the king. So the king, obviously, big important piece. If it gets captured, we're talking game over. But the thing with the king is that it can only move 1 square, but in any direction. Yes, it can take other pieces, but it's only 1 square in any direction. So if I was going to move my king, it can move into any one of these squares, but again, only 1 square in each direction. Your final piece. This is your money maker. This is your best piece on the entire board is the queen. Kind of satisfying. It probably makes sense that the woman is the one that honestly owns everything on the board. So the queen, why is she so special is imagine what we've learned with the rook and with the bishop. Imagine if you put these two pieces into one, that's what you get with a queen. So the queen can move in diagonals like this, or can move in files or rings. So the nice part about your queen is because she can do all of that, she attacks a lot and protects a lot all throughout the game, and you only have one, and so you gotta make sure that you make her count. Now that we've kind of gone over the basics of how each piece moves, let's talk about the value of each piece. So the rook that we talked about earlier is gonna be worth 5 points. Now this is important to know how much each piece is going to be worth, because when you're doing trades, you need to know, did you make a good trade or not? So with our pawns, we have 8 of them, and it probably makes sense that they're only worth 1 point. So 5 pawns is the equivalent to having 1 rook, for instance. Now you also have a knight and a bishop. The nice part about bishops and knights is that they're the same value. So if you do trade off a knight for a bishop, you're doing an equal trade because they're both worth 3 points. 3 points, I guess. Now, the queen, because she is your best piece on the board, your queen is going to be worth a whopping 9 points. So that's like 5 points for your rook, a knight 3 points, and then maybe 1 pawn is worth the price that you would pay for your queen. That's it, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. If you like what you saw and you actually did learn something, I will be making a lot more videos on the basics of chess, moving up all the way into the advanced stuff. These are the lessons that my dad taught to me and my 2 brothers, and that's how my little brother became a grandmaster. So I'm showing you guys the key tips and the key ways to take even somebody that's never played the game and make them a grandmaster. So stick along. Please hit that subscribe button if you like what you saw, and if you didn't like what you saw, honestly, just don't tell anybody about it, right? But hopefully you liked what you saw and you stick around, hit that subscribe button and maybe that little bell so you can get notifications for my next video. Thanks so much and have a great day.